Welcome to the first episode of Season 3 of Dead Last, and sort of a fresh start for the show. I mean, you're gonna soon see that things are a bit different now, and I figured what better way to kick off this season than to go big and rank the Alien movies, along with the Predator series, as well as the Versus crossover films in honor of the upcoming Predator film called Prey. And here's the roster of films that we're dealing with. And yeah, this one's a doozy, full of some great films. And if you're just joining the show, here's what we do. My patrons on patreon.com are given this list of movies to rank, and if they choose to, they rank them and send me the list. They put their favorite at number 1, worth 1 point, their second favorite at number 2, worth 2 points, and down the list until putting their least favorite at dead last, here worth 12 points. Movie with the least points is number 1, and the one with the most points is dead last. We had a great turnout this month with 42 entrants, so the best possible score that a movie can have is 42 points, and the worst score would be 504. Now, here's the big switch up for the show, because normally I'd have my panel here to discuss the rankings with me, but now you're just stuck with me. But I'm not going to be entirely alone, because I have one very special guest with me, and he's a dead last legend, one of the OGs, and it is Mikey. Welcome back.
What's up? I'm glad to be back.
And if you don't know Mikey, he's a special effects artist and mask maker extraordinaire, and also one of the hosts of the extremely popular podcast Shindig Radio.
Extremely popular. That's definitely a choice of words. But you guys check it out, and maybe we'll get a couple people, get a couple listens.
Damn straight. And if you guys out there haven't heard it, you should check it out like now, or maybe when you're done watching this. And speaking of this, let's get to the ranking. On this season, sometimes I'll be counting down to dead last and sometimes to number 1, depending upon the subject. And today, we're starting at the bottom, because coming in at dead last at a whopping 438 points is AVPR, or Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. This one was ranked dead last 15 times, and the best score that it got was 4th place. I didn't have a very high opinion of it since I gave it my 10th place, and it's frustrating because this film finally gives you something that you've been waiting to see, and that's aliens on Earth in a modern day setting. But then you throw in some stupid Pred alien thing into the mix that literally no one asked for, and then just underlit everything. Like the Game of Thrones episode watched this movie and was like, too dark, man. But then it's just boring. Every character is super bland. Every scenario is something that's been seen before. And that's when you have the revelation that, oh no, Aliens on Earth in modern day just feels like any other generic alien attack movie. So I guess be careful what you wish for. Now, Mikey, you gave this one 8th place, so you don't mind this one as much as others do.
I guess that one, just because of my disappointment with AVP, that one was sort of refreshing in just like the pure garbagey straight to video like horror element of that one. Like it's lit like a really crappy 80s horror movie. You know, it's very creature effects heavy, which I think is cool, and it's more gory than the first AVP movie and just sort of brutal. I mean, there's this awesome scene where Predator basically whips this ridiculous disc of blades at this young girl who you kind of, I think, like up to that point, and sticks her to the wall of the hospital, and you're like, whoa, what the? It's just pretty weird stuff like that, which I thought was really fun, and it degrades so much into this almost Power Rangers Godzilla-esque, monster battle, and any monster suit fight I love. So even though you can barely see what's going on, you're on the roof in the rain watching two rubber monsters beat the shit out of each other. So it's pretty fun,
Sliding down on the list at number 11 with an also fairly impressive number with 419 points, and also the most recent film on this list with The Predator. This one was ranked dead last 12 times, and its best score was also 4th. I didn't quite have this one where it landed in 11th, but I did have it pretty low at 9th place because it's just so far removed from anything that I want to see in a Predator movie. The whole concept of Predator is a space hunter who's come here to find unique and interesting prey, and here we just have a bunch of generic alien attack stuff. None of the hunter lore even matters here. Plus, it was like Shane Black really wanted to include a character with autism, but his only knowledge of autism amounted to him thinking that it just makes people touch their ears a lot. Plus, nothing makes you realize just how cool the Predators look and how awesome that those suits are, like having a fully CGI crappy one standing there looking all goofy. The only reason this one got a little higher for me is that at least it's never boring and there's always something going on, I guess. Mikey does not agree though, because you gave this one your dead last, which is kind of ironic because I don't know if you viewers know this, but you actually worked on this one.
This is all part of my constant, every dream I've ever had in my career coming true, but in the worst possible case scenario. And this is one of those moments. I got to work on a Predator movie. I've been a Predator fan since I was in single digits probably. And I was so pumped to be a part of it. And, just to add insult to injury, after the movie just kind of being not good in any possible way, they cut my Predator out of the movie. So we did 3 Predator suits, and 2/3 of them got cut out of the movie completely, along with a whole chunk of, story there. This whole subplot just gone, and that kind of crushed me. But all that aside, it's just not a good movie. And I remember when we were working on it, we heard little tales of these little things in the script, and we're like, well, that's not going to make it. This isn't going to make it. There's no way he's doing that. And every single dumb thing made it into the movie.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
All right, so now let's take us down to the number 10 spot here. And there was a pretty big jump down in the numbers, but coming in at 359 points is our first solo Alien entry, Alien Covenant. And we technically have 3 franchises here, and I like that the bottom 3 has 1 film from each. Covenant was ranked dead last 3 times, and like our last 2 movies, also only reached 4th place. I agree with you guys because I had this pretty low myself in 11th place because, oh man, I do not care for this. This one really bugs me because Prometheus came out and Alien fans had a laundry list of complaints about what they didn't like about that movie, and then here comes Ridley Scott just strolling in and saying, oh, if you didn't like that stuff, too bad because you're getting more of all of that. Everyone in this film is just really stupid, and I don't know why it bugs me that this is like 100 years in the future and GoPros are still a thing. Like GoPros all like, no, in 100 years our cameras will be exactly the same, but we'll have shoulder mounts. I also can't decide what's a weirder choice, having Danny McBride basically just play future Danny McBride, or randomly killing off your last film's heroine off screen. But here's the thing, I didn't give this dead last because number 1, at least there's some actual alien in it, and number 2, the characters at least know how to move to the left or right. Mikey, you feel the same way because we have the same score here and you put this in 11th.
When your CG stuff is outweighing all the rubber monster stuff, there's almost nothing, to enjoy. And I know Odd Studio in Australia did a lot of practical puppets and a lot of really cool stuff and some state-of-the-art things that, I've never even seen before with different types of silicones and translucency, but all of that stuff gets, kind of buried by CG. And it's such a bummer to see. But at the end of the day, I think the only redeemable thing about this entire movie is that Michael Fassbender is an awesome actor. And I'm like, yeah, but we already knew that. And you here he is, he's a great actor, and he's playing two different characters, and I don't like either one of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he's great. Yeah, whatever. But why would you take this entire franchise and turn it towards your synthetics and make this whole thing about them and their obsession with creation and becoming real, or discovering the perfect organism? I mean, this is stuff they were dealing with in the first movie, and that made it cool. But just pushing the entire thing on the seesaw over to that end, it's like, this is not entertaining. This is not what anyone wants to see.
Speaking of things that at least I don't want to see, we next have our number 9 film. And this was really close because our next 3 movies were only 1 point away from each other. That's how close that this all came. But at number 9 with 327 points is Prometheus. This one did get 4 dead last nods and did get 1 first place ranking, the first on the list so far. I do not agree with that, though, because this one was my personal dead last, because it's probably one of the most frustrating movies that I have ever seen. Its biggest problem, bar none, is its characters. They don't work. In the first movie, you had this bunch of blue-collar argumentative crew, and that worked because they were essentially truck drivers. In Aliens, it worked because they were soldiers and roughnecks, but not here. These are supposed to be the absolute cream of the crop, the best people in their respective fields, hand-picked for this one-of-a-kind mission by the richest man on earth, and they all act like blithering idiots. Every single decision that any character makes is head-scratching, and the biggest issue with that is just how seriously it takes itself. I mean, goofy characters would work in a dumb sci-fi flick, but this is a movie that thinks that it's saying something about religion, the start of mankind, and it comes across thinking that it's way more important than it is. So what you have is a really dumb movie acting like it's not dumb, wrapped around a group of characters without a single person to root for. Mikey, you like this one more than me, though, but not by much, because you still had it in 10th.
People must really love this whole Dr. Manhattan starting, the world, starting people and things on this planet. They must love that. I think it's one of the worst choices ever. Not only are we going to see the origin of these alien creatures, but we're going to see the origin of literally all life on this planet. Like, what? Why would it need to go there? Come on. It's like that. Just being a monster design nerd, I'm like, okay, so if the xenomorph alien in its final form from the neck down has this sort of feel of the space jockey from the neck down, it's similar, it comes from that same biomechanical Giger world, then we find out that is just a space suit that this Dr. Manhattan guy, bald dude, is just wearing. Then wouldn't that in turn mean that every time one of these aliens bursts out of its host, it has to be wearing a similar clothes? Is it going to have the same T-shirt on?
That might have to be something for an unanswered question video. But for now, we're headed to our number 8 movie, which is, again, just a mere 1 point ahead of our number 9. And with 326 points, it's AVP, Aliens vs. Predator. It's got 3 dead last votes, and the best score that it received was a 2nd place hit. And this one I have right where it landed, since I had it in 8th place myself. And this is quite possibly the most generic film of all time. Nothing about it stands out. The characters, the events, the settings, it's just all so remarkably bland. Plus, it's just a repeat of Resident Evil, because apparently Anderson just likes taking these concepts and saying, oh, hey, let's just transfer this to an underground labyrinth where characters are trapped with the enemies and they have a limited time to find a way out. Yeah. He even does the whole 3D representation of it like he did in Resident Evil. But here's the thing. It does this in a pretty inoffensive manner, and there's things happening on screen, so it gets a few higher spots than some of the others. Like, it does have that one pretty great fight between the Predator and an alien, and the fact that they used more of the practical Queen puppet at the ending as opposed to the CGI one that I remembered. I was kind of annoyed at the revisionist touches, like how quickly the whole face-hugging process is now, and how the aliens go from chestburster to like full-grown Xeno in a space of about a half hour or so. And it looks like you have similar feelings because you've got this in 9th, so it seems that you're also not extremely fond of it.
It's pretty cheeseball. It has that feeling that I can't stand, that like kind of made for TV, almost like, you know, young Hercules, Xena warrior princess vibe, that I feel like this is not of an actual movie. Like, this is so cheap and goofy, even the color choices and things. And, you know, the Predators look big and bulky and goofy. There's just one ridiculous scene where they're all running down a corridor in silhouette, like it's like Batman and Robin style. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, not to mention, I'm all for strong female characters, but when your female character experiences no fear, like there's no such thing, like I don't even fear things I've never seen before. Like, I've never seen this incredible, you know, queen alien creature. It's chasing me like a T-Rex through the night, and I'm just cool as a cucumber. Like, all right. I don't buy that at all. Like, you know, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was afraid of the Predator. You know, you can be too. You know, you can be a little vulnerable. I don't know. It's just so silly.
Rounding out this little triple threat of low numbers is our number 7 movie. Again, just a single point ahead of our last one, because with 325 points we have Alien Resurrection. That got dead last only twice, but did get 1 second place spot. I again matched a consensus because I have it in my 7th place spot, and I just want to say that I was braced to just hate this, but you know, it's a little better than I remembered. It has some really likable bits. For one thing, you got all the shots with the Xenos, and they're handled really well, and they look great. I even really like the Neomorph suit at the ending. I may not love the overall design and wish that it wasn't in the movie, but since it is, it looks about as cool as it's going to. And you know, you're getting the things that you would want and expect from an Alien movie, just a cheesier and far too glossy version of it. But its biggest trouble is that, once again, it doesn't really offer anything new. But then when it does, it's really not the direction that you would want it to go. It's like you're at a nice Italian restaurant and you're really liking the meals, but then you realize that they keep on bringing you the same dish over and over again, and you're hoping that they bring you something new, but then they do, and it's a bowl of cereal. The Neomorph is a bowl of cereal. Mikey, you've got a similar feeling, and it looks like you actually even liked this a little more than me because you have it in 6th.
There's something about this one that I like, you know. It's ridiculous and stupid, but there's a lot of cool stuff to look at. Again, going back to creature effect stuff because I'm so nerdy about it. ADI did a lot of really cool stuff in this one. I mean, just the room of clones in that one lab, all in their little pickled punk, you know, formaldehyde chambers and stuff. Every one of those things is a masterpiece to me. I love it. And a big thing that most people hate, especially in the creature effects world, is that newborn alien. They hate the design. They hate the execution. They can't stand his little beady black eyes, deep set in his eye socket. You know, I was all about that thing. And even when I look back on it now and I watch it, I'm like, that's a really ambitious puppet. It's probably one of the most complete like creature puppets that's happened in a really long time. And they shoot the hell out of it. They have a lot of really cool gags, and I respect the hell out of that. If Ron Perlman shows up in leather pants, you got a good chance it's going to be a cheesy movie.
Yes. Why don't you take a walk outside?
All right, we now dive into the top half of the list as we slowly start to get to the legitimately good movies on this list. And at number 6, with a decent drop down to 287 points, is Predators, which was ranked dead last once. And real quick, every movie so far has had at least one dead last vote. This got a lot of middle of the list kind of votes, and the best score that it got was 4th place, which it got 7 times. I actually like this one slightly more than the norm because I have it in 5th, and I think it's pretty damn alright. The setup for this is great. It defines the characters really well and makes them interesting, gives you an intriguing setup, and it seems like it's gonna knock it out of the park because you're like, hey, this is a really cool premise. The characters work, concept works, you're giving me that cool classic Predator, and I'm not mad at these new versions either. But then the movie just literally shrugs its shoulders and says, what do we do now? And the only thing that they can think of is to sit down and hang out with Morpheus for a while, like they just didn't know what else to do with this story. But then it gets interesting again for a while until they suddenly decide to make Topher Grace a major plot point, and I see what they were going for with it, but it just does not work. You and I split the difference on this one because I gave it better than where it landed, and you went 1 point lower since you have it in 7th.
I like the idea of rounding up all Earth's badasses and putting them on this can hunt for the Predators. You'd really have to vet the badasses at some point because Adrian Brody is not the guy. I mean, I don't necessarily think he can't be like a special ops tough guy or anything like that. Like, I mean, he could look the part, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's the guy. He's the top. I mean, any one of the guys in the first Predator movie is light years tougher and cooler than him. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah. Poncho makes Adrian Brody looks like strawberry shortcake. You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. Not to mention, you got Topher Grace. I don't know why anyone would be scared of him or intimidated, or even if he had a body count, that was astronomical, why the Predators would be like, this guy is going to be hard to hunt. Like, he's the one, Oh, come on. It's silly. It's just silly.
Okay, our number 5 movie comes in with a solid 275 points, and it was one that was all over the place on the rankings, and it's Alien Cubed, which was ranked dead last twice, and its best score was 3rd place, which it got 3 times. Now, I had this a touch lower on my ranking, and here's the thing. I hated this when it came out. Just hated it. And I feel like it was hated at the time. And now, with hindsight, it's seen as sort of a misunderstood classic. And I will admit that it is a visually striking film with tons of atmosphere, just dripping with mood. But I still can't get past the flaws in the storyline. The betrayal of just straight up killing Hicks and Newt without even an ounce of fanfare. It's just like, oh, hey, we spent the last movie developing these cool relationships, having Hicks gain respect for Ripley, and Ripley doing the same for Bishop. And then this one is just like, we don't want them in the story, so they're just dead now. Move along. Plus the fact that you had these 2 movies in a row that just seemed to change the game and move forward this mythology, and then this one basically just does the first movie again. So ultimately, I have more respect for it now than I did, but I'm still pretty far from the whole this is a masterpiece we didn't recognize point of view, especially because some of the effects don't hold up, like the CGI alien and the Bishop doll. And I know that dated effects should be normal for a 30-something-year-old movie, but they look worse than those from Aliens or Alien. Also, there's not many memorable characters. It's very hard to tell anyone apart. So Mikey, you had this in 4th place, and I know that we talked about this already before the episode, and this was a tough placement for you.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one. I gotta be honest, and I need to apologize to one specific person out there. Your friend as well, Tim Martin, who is one of the biggest Alien fans of all time. we have argued incessantly about Alien 3 versus Aliens, right?
Yeah.
I love Aliens, but there's something about Alien 3 for me that sort of evoked the tone of the first movie in its dark, isolated kind of vibe. And there was something about it that I thought was just more alien. And I always would rank it higher than the second film. But on my rewatch of these movies, I realized that while I love, again, the concept of Alien 3, and I think that tonally it is really cool, and it's dark, and it's definitely a horror movie, and it has a lot of the same vibe as that first movie, it's a difficult movie to watch. I forgot that it's just drags on forever. Nothing really happens. And there's a lot of stuff that you have to think about kind of off camera to make it sort of interesting. And that's my unfortunately that was my love story with Alien 3 that ended with watching Dead Last, again.
Well, that's the thing about Dead Last. I feel like it really makes you consider exactly how you feel about these movies. And I say that because I went through something similar with maybe the opposite with our number 4 movie, which came in at 223 points, and it's Predator 2. Its lowest rank was 10th place, and it's officially the first movie on the list to not get a single Dead Last ranking, and it was ranked in 2nd place 3 times. So there's a lot of love for this one. And I had some of that love since I put it in 4th. And I'm the reverse of your Alien 3 epiphany in that I saw this when it came out and I just really didn't like it. But every time that I've seen it since, I've kind of liked it more. When I realized we were doing this list, I expected it to be on the lower end of the middle for me. But then, watching it compared to all the rest, I really had a great time with it. Like Aliens, it certainly distinguishes itself from the original and feels like a completely different kind of movie. It's way darker and meaner, which is kind of a plus. The characters aren't as likable, though, except for Bill Paxton as Lambert. And I think part of why I didn't like it earlier is that I read the comic that it was based on first, and the lead was a character that was basically Arnold again. It was actually supposed to be Dutch's brother. But then here, it's just Danny Glover, and I thought that was weird. But now I love that the hero is Danny Glover. It's not who you would normally think of as a badass action hero, and that works in the movie's favor. It's so much more interesting seeing a guy who's closer to what you'd think of as an everyman going toe-to-toe here. You also like this, but slightly less, but you still had it in 5th place.
On paper, it makes lots of sense. Like the concrete jungle, you know what I mean? You got future LA, and we can't be dealing with, the elite that the military has to offer over and over again. So we're dealing with cops, we're dealing with drug dealers, these huge, kind of groups of Jamaican versus Mexican drug gangs and stuff like that, and I think that's cool. Again, I don't know that it was executed exactly as cool as it could have been, but at the end of the day, I still like it. I was the right age for it when it came out. I was excited to get more Predator action. I don't know. I love it. There's so much I love about it. I also like these kind of little connector things that are really early sort of Easter eggs of, throwing the alien skull on the ship and, showing this whole sort of trophy room that the Predator has on a ship and these other predators. I don't know. It's neat.
Here we go into the top 3. You may think that you know what's coming, but you have no idea what you're in store for. But at number 3, with a huge drop down to 129 points, we have the original Predator. Again, no Dead Last votes here, and the lowest it got was 9th place, but it did get 3 first place nods. Once again, I have this right where it lands because I put it in 3rd, and this movie's just a blast. It doesn't take itself too seriously, so it hits the right notes of being fun, but it's also not just being goofy, and it knows when to not joke around. It strikes this really nice balance of action and cheese. But the thing that makes this one stand out is the characters. They're well-defined and distinct enough to be notable, they're jerky enough to come off as the quintessential 80s tough guys, but not so jerky that they're completely unlikable. And you know, I've said recently that a lot of genre films, especially low-budget ones, involve a lot of walking around in the woods. It's just cheaper to do that. But this film does a great job of being entirely made up of guys walking around a jungle and yet never feel like it. There's enough variation, banter, and action to break up the monotony of the setting. It would have been pretty easy for this to get boring real quick, but it's paced well enough that it avoids all of that. Mikey, you like this one even more than me, though, since you've got it as your number 2.
Oh yeah, I love Predator. Not just because I think it's a perfect movie for what it's supposed to be, but it's one of those movies where, you know, the creature changed my life in a way. It was like, I want to do this. I don't even know how to do this or what this is, but I'm going to figure out how to do this, you know, for my career. And you know, Predator was one of those things. I mean, that design, the only thing I can think that's even close to it as far as you know, ingenious, fresh, kind of revolutionary creature design is the alien itself, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, besides that, Predator is its own thing. It's such a cool thing. I mean, it's like, it's perfect. It's just perfectly done. Every character is awesome. I want to be in that group of dudes. You know what I mean? I think they're so badass. There's so much gratuitous bicep nonsense. You know what I mean? Everyone's flexing and sweating, and it's ridiculous. And it's awesome though. And then you get this awesome, you know, showdown between one of the coolest creatures I've ever seen and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's awesome. I don't know, one of my favorite movies.
So now, when I first decided to do this episode, I figured I would start with number 1 and count down to dead last, because I thought, well, it's no contest. I mean, Alien's gonna be number 1. But then the rankings started coming in, and things started looking really tight. And I realized that it was a real race for number 1. And then, when that final list arrived and I looked, I realized something happened that has never happened in the history of Dead Last. Viewers, I'm shocked to announce to you that for the first time, we have a tie for first place. That's right, both Alien and Aliens received 84 points each. So they're both technically our number 1s, but we need a winner. So I need a tiebreaker. And Mikey, you're gonna laugh here, because in order to break this tie, I had to go to the biggest Alien fan I know. A man who sculpts these suckers in his free time and has worked on several of the movies on this list, and it's Tim Martin. Now, Tim, the pressure's on. It's up to you to cast that final vote and decide our winner. Which is better, Alien or Aliens?
So I'm going to have to give my vote for my all-time favorite movie of all time, Aliens, the sequel to Alien. I've got to give it the number 1 spot just by a skosh over Alien.
There it is. Tim has spoken.
How hilarious is that? That's the one person I mentioned. And now I'm going to take back my apology, because that's the one person that you ask that I know for a fact is going to he's going to be greedy and take it for himself. I know that's his favorite movie, but who in their right mind, if they're the tiebreaker and there's a list like this, would go with the sequel? I mean, come on. No class.
Well, be that as it may, it looks like our number 2 movie with 84 points will be the classic original Alien. The lowest score that it got was 5th place, and it was ranked first 21 times. And you know, I was one of those number 1s, because there was no question that this would be my number 1. It's a perfectly crafted film. It's got the perfect amount of build-up. Keep in mind, the alien isn't even born until the halfway point of the movie, but it never feels that way. They give you the mystery of the derelict ship, and then the face hugger, leading up to that great chest burster scene. I know I've said before that as a writer, I really like structure, and this is essentially a perfect 3-act film. You've got the setup and establishing the concept, and then the development, and then that fantastic Act 3 denouement. It's a marvel of pacing. Plus, the sheer magic of those shots where the alien is in plain sight but you don't realize it. I mean, now that the xenomorph is such a common sight, they're a lot easier to spot, but it was such a foreign design, such a unique creation that you never knew to look for it in the background back then. This film was clearly influenced by a lot of other movies that came before it. It's not really an original concept, but here's the thing. It sure as hell makes you believe that it is through its presentation, and that's a feat that not a lot of movies have accomplished. Mikey, you feel the same because you also gave this as your number 1.
No, I mean, this is not only, one of the greatest sci-fi movies. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. I mean, this movie, like start to finish, every single frame is artwork. It changed things in so many ways. It changed sci-fi. It changed creature effects like you wouldn't even believe. I mean, it changed dynamics with gender dynamics in cast and things like that. I mean, race barriers. I mean, it really does a lot of stuff. That kind of, if you have to give it credit, a lot of stuff goes right back to Alien. Yeah, I love it. Not to mention this alien creature, which revolutionizes creature design forever and monsters. I mean, H.R. Giger revolutionized art in some way. I mean, he's the most copied, and especially in the cinematic world. Here I am wearing my favorite Giger ripoff creature, my favorite alien ripoff, Sinjanor. I mean, this movie and this alien changed stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's so great, and it just basically changed film, and I don't know how anyone could not jam it up into the first spot.
Now then, also with 84 points, but with the tiebreaker vote, our number 1 movie today is the James Cameron sequel, Aliens. Its lowest rank was 6th place, but it was voted number 1 17 times. Mikey, I'm going to go with you first on this one because you had it a bit lower in 3rd place, but I know that you still have an appreciation for it.
Well, like I said earlier, I've argued about this movie probably more than anything else because it is such a great movie, and especially being a special effects person and a fan of that stuff. I mean, it's untouchable up to this point with just the amount of stuff they're throwing in here. Not just the creature effects, but also the miniatures and the stop motion, and I mean, just the way they shoot everything is unbelievable, and it's untouchable at this time. That being said, as far as it being kind of a technical, all technical genius, the story, I think, to me, is a little bit on the cheesy side. We're getting into the James Cameron that would eventually become the action guy. Again, though, on this rewatch, the movie's done so well, and everything just looks so cool, and the technical aspects of it are like so untouchable. I mean, just the power loader alone, Sigourney Weaver in a cast where they're cool characters, but you're not getting a ton of great actors. She is unbelievable, especially in the beginning of the film. She first comes out and she has her dreams, and then she has her meeting. She brings you right back, and is like telling them what's up. Like this thing killed my entire crew. So I hope you're right. That whole part is so awesome.
Well, I had this one in 2nd place, but it was really close with the original film because I love them both. If Alien was a perfect example of genre crossing, taking an old-fashioned haunted house movie and putting it into space, then Aliens did the same thing with war movies. Much like the original, it's a collection of tropes and cliches from existing film, but told in such a new light that you feel like you're watching it for the first time. It does a great job defining its characters, even if it never really gives them a lot of depth. You know who they are and their quirks enough to care about them when they die. And those deaths Oh, they're glorious. Just tell me that the death of Hudson is not an iconic cinema moment. But what really sends this one is that alien queen. It kills me that they're capable of something like that, and having it be so convincing, and then decades later, they can't even come close. So there you have it, 12 movies, 3 franchises, a new format, a dead last first with a tie for the top spot, the return of Mikey, a cameo appearance by Tim Martin. Holy crap, that was an episode. Let me see that list. Let me see that ranking. There we go. Okay. I want you all to let us know in the comments what you think here, and if you agree with this ranking and what your ranking would be. And just know that if you want to participate in rankings, all you have to do is head over to patreon.com/movietimelines and become a patron for as little as $1 a month. And these guys here are my patrons, and I want to give them a quick thank you for helping to keep this channel going. And I also want to thank my special guest, Mikey. It's always great to have you on, man.
Oh, thank you, man. This is awesome. I always love doing this, and I like this format too. I get to talk more because I'm a total conceited asshole, but
well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, guys, and bye-bye.